How's it going, guys? Guess who fixed their webcam? I did. Don't know what the issue is. I just restarted my laptop, even though I uploaded it and updated it last night and shut it down and stuff. Apparently, it just wasn't going to play ball. But we're here. I'm recording. Today, I'm going to do the first installment of my $10 patrons and their access to my publishing knowledge that I've gained through doing my master's degree. Now, in the short form of what you receive for the Q&A, there isn't much in that one. What I was talking about before that, which obviously none of you guys know because you're not mind readers and you weren't here when I was talking to my webcam when it wasn't running. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the very basics of what I learned about marketing oneself and the change and shift in publishing that we've started seeing in the world today. So the biggest thing I learned from my master's, aside from doing some nice writing classes, which were fantastic, I improved my skills a lot during those, was how to market yourself in today's everything in the publishing industry, with all of this work that's around, with everything that's on Kindle, with everything that's in hardback, paperback, online. Like that, there's so many different mediums to use now, and now more than ever, what's happening is new authors such as myself, new writers, will actually establish themselves on social media and such first by kind of showing off their small projects, being like, hey, I wrote a poem, here it is, making their own blogs, marketing themselves in this way. That has like grown and boomed. So when I first started just to illustrate, when I first started my master's, I didn't have a Twitter account. In my very first, it was writing in the professional industry class. The big takeaway was make yourself a Twitter. So I did. Today, I checked my follow account. I'm somewhere around about the 4,100 mark. So I'm trying to think, oh my gosh, when did I finish my master's? Help. It was December 2017. So in 2 years, I've made some good progression. I have, how many of those fans are going to be super behind me all the way, supporting me on everything, retweeting all my stuff? Probably quite few. But my name is out there. I'm known. I've got a couple of things published that I'm able to publicize on my Twitter. So the Twitter sphere is quite a handy tool. Now, if we look back, even just kind of like 5 years ago when social media was, it's nowhere near what it is now. And social media can be so bad in so many ways, but for writers and creatives, it can also be good. What we have now that I've noticed recently is an influx of people doing the same thing, which is fine. But what then seems to happen, especially on Facebook and such mediums, is people just get sick of seeing advertisements all the time to like people's pages and posts, and which I totally get. I also don't like seeing that kind of stuff, so it feels weird for me to do it, but I'm trying to make a brand for myself. I'm trying to push. I'm trying to earn some cash while I'm doing this, while I'm pushing to be a writer harder than I have previously. Because not only because I have free time, but because I feel like this is probably the best chance for me to do so. Because when I get a job, when I'm working full time, when we're living our lives, I'm not going to have as much time to sit and dedicate to writing things and all of that carry on. So the big thing in terms of publishing and what that can mean is you can actually get a fan base before you've got anything published. It used to be very much the opposite, in terms of you would publish something, provided you were lucky enough to, and then the fans would come to you, at which point, after you publish a few books, you might consider doing social media in today's age. So I see pros and cons in both sides of the story. My hair is driving me nuts, I apologize. I see pros and cons in both sides. I did it this way in terms of promoting myself because I was kind of savvy with social media anyway, so I just thought, well, it's not really going to hurt me in any way. It might make people annoyed when I just constantly promote myself, but such is life. You don't get through, especially in this industry, without tooting your own horn a little bit. I'm not, promising my writing's fantastic. I'm just like, I'm a fresh writer. I'm independent. I'm not represented by anybody. I have me, myself, and I at my desk, which is the bed that I'm currently sat on. So for me, it's worked well. And I think I hit Twitter at a good thing. I found the good algorithms. I found some good hashtags to use. I could get super technical, even though I don't really know what I'm talking about there. But it worked for me personally. I can also see how it's a bad thing. You can probably get way too many vacuous people who, if you drum up such a following and then you're actually like, oh guys, I've got my first thing published, you could just have the whole thing of who sort of cares. So it's very swings and roundabouts. It's worked for me. I could see how it could not work for people. Another potential thing, but I haven't seen it thus far, is somebody who might want to represent you after you've shown your manuscripts and things for novel work might decide not to, based on your social media and the persona you show on there. So I've been quite careful about keeping my personal stuff separate to my professional stuff, or at the very least keeping my personal stuff very open and like not at all influenced by anything that people could find bad. Hopefully, fingers crossed, who knows, maybe me reading books is a bad thing to some people, which I highly doubt. But I tend to keep it very neutral, very chill, because what can happen is you can find the perfect person to represent you in the literary world, get yourself a great agent. They could turn around and say, we don't like what you represent as a person because they've read a couple of your tweets about Brexit. Just as a thrown out there example. So I've been quite careful of that. I've managed to build my image a little bit. Learned quite a lot along the way. I have a couple of things pending right now on Submittable, which is a fantastic website. It gives all manner of competitions, anthologies, magazines. They're accepting submissions, hence its name, Submittable. A lot of them are free. You can filter the sorts of things you're looking for. So it's definitely worth it. And that's a great new tool in the publishing industry right now. It's a site basically where, like I said, different companies can come to it and put out a call for writers of any or all skill level. They write out what they want. You know, if they want something mega specific, it goes on there. If they want something really vague for their anthology or their whatevers, then it goes on there. I have yet to check it today, but I've been checking it at least once a week. But submissions on there take some time. As with anything in the published industry, what I have noticed is for all of the fantasticness of our digital age, there is a huge, huge snail pace to this process. If I sent in my complete manuscript tomorrow after it had been agreed to be looked at, I might get a response in 12 months. And that's being hopeful sometimes. Some places do endeavour to get it back to you with comments or like a yes or a no in 3 months. At the moment, though, it seems, especially me looking around the Twitter sphere and tuning into the writing and publishing industries using Penguin, because they have I'd recommend looking at their newsletters for Penguin. They're very informative about what's going on in the world in terms of publishing. It takes ages, it takes forever, and they could often come back to you in, even if they get back to you in 3 or 4 months, they could then go back to you and say, we would like the second manuscript, or we'd like this bit to be quantified of this bit. You kind of name it. It's not like you'll have a book deal in 3 to 4 months. Whereas I think with the electronic age as it is now, it's similar to the immigration process I've gone through. It feels so slow to say that we have all these fantastic means to get information sent instantly, instant. It's so halting. It's so, I don't know. I mean, I guess as well, because publishing at the moment, books and things are huge. I understand why. But at the same time, I'm sure there's ways that can have it streamlined. You could probably have like different emails or fax things for different stages of the process, which higher houses do have. So, for example, having a line of contact for initial manuscript look, being forwarded, hopefully getting that back in 2 or 3 months, being forwarded onto any edits that are wanting to be made, if it's a yes on the manuscript, and being passed on to different people, although it could be confusing. And I think generally it's you stick with the same person throughout your process, from what I've learned and researched. Having different people or different methods of contact could make that whole process way quicker. So it's an interesting one at the moment. It's both a fantastic and a weird time for publishing in the typical sense. It's kind of, as I briefly said a little bit in my video, I believe, or I'm just crossing the two in my head of me speaking to this thing with it not working. The kind of cycle of self-publishing has come back around to being acceptable. So what happened was, with the founding of Amazon and their Kindle, they opened up obviously submissions to be self-published with themselves. They could give you cover art, they could do all sorts of stuff. You could even get published in print. I mean, it would obviously cost you to do so, especially in that way. But on Kindle, you could get published on there for free. I think they still do that. Last time I looked, it's just a very weird like they have loads of vetting and screening now, which is good. But it means that I was like, oh, I think I need to look over all my stuff again before I think about this. That you also need minimum word counts and things. So what the birth of Kindle meant was you were getting loads of poorly edited, very terrible quality fiction. So for a while, self-publishing had a really big black mark next to it. If you were a self-published author, that was normally a bad thing because people knew you didn't have to go through any editing to get your stuff up on there, which normally meant it was pretty bad, unfortunately. So now we've kind of come around again. Kindle and Amazon now have more methods and vetting ways for making sure that your stuff is going to be good and worth the money people will pay. I mean, I know it's normally in like 99 cents, I believe, for the US store, probably £1 or £2 in the UK stores for Kindle. But, you want nice reviews, you want good reviews. You don't want to have this like mark of a terrible author next to your name. So it's come back around, yes, but it's definitely still there, the stigma of, oh, you're self-published. Oh dear, sort of a feeling if you say that in a writing conference. But what hasn't gone out of fashion, which I'm very proud about and very happy about, is independent publishing, because woohoo, that is right up my alley. So independent publishing is offered by what we'd call independent publishing houses. I think it's the same in the US. I obviously need to do a little bit more research on that. But what essentially that means is they will accept what's called unsolicited manuscripts. Very fancy word for a literary agent not supporting you and, having put their tick mark on the manuscript. So what that means is you obviously still get, personally, I would like to get editing professionally done. And that, will get it up to a standard where you can actually stand up in front of a room of people to publish your book and say, this right here is my work. I'm repping myself. Have at it, sort of a thing. That is quite common now, and also something I'm very excited about. As you can all tell from my various vlogs, I like talking and I like being able to sell things. I feel like nobody can really sell what I want to do, what I want to say better than I can. A little bit arrogant maybe just more to do with how I view the process. It's a part of me, so I would like to be the one on the front lines, for better or worse. And people might sit and slate me for it and be like, oh my god, this is horrific, like how did you ever get this to our front door? I'd rather that than have someone try and do it for me. Or at the very least, Skylar said jokingly a couple of times that he would be my agent and stuff like that. I mean, there is training you have to go through to be an agent, so it was a joke, but I'd prefer to keep it that way than to go to. It's also, as always, a matter of money. Literary agents can ask for, oh my god, astronomical fees because they're putting their name on it to say, this is at a standard where I think it can be published. That is quite a big, bold step in publishing in the industry at large. Because if that flops, and if the publishing houses continue to deny it, and it never gets picked up, that's a black mark on a literary agent's record, and that isn't good in terms of them getting further clients. They don't even have to specifically say that they've had rejections and things, like as per law or anything, but in terms of their house that they work, they have like agent houses and agent companies and stuff. They'll probably not be the favourite around the table for a while. So it's normally a long process to get represented. It's normally very lengthy and expensive, which is right now not something I can really afford to do. Maybe in the future when I've been working again, I've got some money back in the coffers, I will look at that, especially if I want to go into my novel career as an author. I would probably consider this a lot more closely, but for right now, it's me, myself and I, my friends, and you patrons listening along with me on this journey together of editing, representing, going to publishing places, like going to contests, putting my stuff out there. It's all going to be a me job, and I quite like that. Even if I do get to the novel stage, if there are a growing number of independent publishing houses like there are right now, I might just go myself. Be like, hey, this manuscript is unsolicited, but it's pretty great. I mean, what? Hopefully I can say that to them without laughing afterwards. Someday. It's a work in progress. But as far as that kind of goes, that was as much as I could really think about with the publishing industry. There's obviously so much more. It's a vast ocean of stuff to talk about. I learned a lot during my masters. I like to impart that knowledge off to people because there's so much that people don't fully understand about the publishing industry. I don't even really understand a lot of it. I haven't delved into it myself, bar some very small publishing projects that I've had put into print. And I haven't even had like money from those, so like royalties is a whole other kettle of fish that I have no idea about. And oh my gosh, there is so much I don't know, but there's also a good amount that I do know. So I hope that this video has been informative for you, and if you have any specific questions for, I think, oh my god, I can't remember off the top of my head, I think I'm supposed to do these like once a month or maybe twice a month. Check me on that, patrons, I'm sure you know better than I do. Leave me some comments down below in Patreon or on YouTube if you fancy. If you found this video on YouTube, hello, welcome. Go to my Patreon because that's where the magic actually happens, and I write stuff and I'm published there. And I'm published in actual real life, and I kind of talk about that process on there a lot. I would recommend that down to the ground. I think off the top of my head for my next video on this, I'm probably going to go into more specifics of what I look for when I go to be published with smaller companies, with smaller houses, using Submittable as, you know, more in depth in terms of what I look for that. Anyway, if you have any questions regarding the publishing industry, please leave them in comments and I'll get to them, and I can do a video specifically for those so that I don't just ramble for like 16 minutes. Wow, that was a long little talk for you guys. Anyway, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned something, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Goodbye.